Speaker, and I want to thank my good colleague from Arkansas for assisting and allowing me to speak tonight. Mr. Speaker, over the next 3 or 4 days, a partisan tone will be exhibited in these chambers. Harsh rhetoric will be exchanged on both sides, some of it intentional, some of it in the heat of the moment, some of it out of simple frustration with not being able to convince ourselves of issues that are going on. But nevertheless, partisanship that is communicated back to America and Americans' despair that we'll ever get past this partisanship. There's some way for us to listen to you and you listen to me and let's thoughtfully consider our positions and then make those compromises that have to be made in order to deal with the issues that face this country. It's not brand new. 221 years ago, Benjamin Franklin observed the same partisanship, the same ugly tone going back and forth, and came upon a solution that he communicated to President Washington in a letter. And I would like to read some of that letter into the record tonight because that solution, I think, would stand us in good stead as well. Reading from Benjamin Franklin's letter to George Washington. In this situation of this assembly, groping as it were in the dark to find political truth and scarce able to distinguish it when presented to us, how has it happened, sir, that we have not heretofore once thought of humbly applying to the Father of lights to eliminate our understandings? And have we now forgotten that powerful friend? Or do we imagine that we no longer need his assistance? I have lived, sir, a long time, and the longer I live, the more convincing proofs I see of this truth, that God governs in the affairs of men. And if a sparrow cannot fall to the ground without his notice, is it probable that an empire can rise without his aid? We have been assured, sir, in the sacred writings, that except the Lord build a house, they labor in vain that build it. I firmly believe this, and I also believe without his concurring aid, we shall succeed in this political building no better than the builders of Babel. We shall be divided by our little partial local interests. Our projects will be confounded, and we ourselves shall become a reproach and a byword down to the future ages. And what is worse, mankind may hereafter, from this unfortunate instance, despair of establishing governments by human wisdom, and leave it to chance and war and conquest. I therefore beg leave to move that henceforth prayers imploring the assistance of heaven and its blessings on our deliberations be held in this assembly every morning before we proceed to business, that one or more of the clergy of this city be requested to officiate in that service. Mr. Speaker, we observe that tradition today. Every morning, our house chaplain or maybe one of our constituents from back home will come and pray and seek God's wisdom on our deliberations. As effective as that is, Mr. Speaker, I would argue that 435 members of this House observing that tradition of daily seeking out the plea that Solomon had in 2 Chronicles 1:10, in which he asked God for wisdom and knowledge that he might govern this great people. That 435 of us and 100 on the other end of this building, on our knees every day, seeking wisdom and guidance and knowledge as to how we would reduce the partisanship, how we would try to strive valiantly to come to conclusions and compromise with each other that deal with the problems that face this country. Our constituents are crying out for it. None of us go home that we don't come across somebody who says, why do you constantly argue with each other and fuss and fight? Get something done. Benjamin Franklin knew a solution 221 years ago, Mr. Speaker. I would argue that solution is more powerful today and is clearly more in need today by this body than even 210 years ago. And I yield back.